In the year 2035, the bionic revolution has begun. Powerful prosthetic limbs turn disabled athletes into superhumans capable of amazing physical feats. This is all thanks to the NIM chip that integrates with your motor cortex activity, making control of your prosthetic even better than your own limbs. But what started as a sisterly feud has escalated into a full-blown war with the criminal underworld. Let's join Maria and Gabby Santos in their intense rivalry and their involvement with the shady underbelly of Bionics. Our story begins with a heist at a bank vault. Miyudo authenticates himself and collects the safety deposit boxes. Inside it are actually mechanical prosthetic parts which he hastily assembles and connects to himself. After dispatching the bank attendant, he immediately takes one of the vault's contents. The guards arrive, but they were no match against Miyudo's cyber arm. Then the police descend upon Miyudo in force and he had to take a hostage just to get away. His brother, Hyder, meets up with him, but unfortunately, Miyudo was fatally shot, so he left the diamonds with his brother and asks him to leave. Detectives are at the scene that night and we learn that Miyudo was a former pro boxer who faded out of the spotlight when Bionics took over the sport. He then orchestrated a fake accident just so he can amputate his arm and get an advanced prosthetic. But this practice is highly illegal and he lost his boxing license and his prosthetic when he got found out. The detective wonders how Miyudo can even control the arm without a NIM chip. But there was a report where a recently deceased bionic athlete body was stolen from the morgue, and when it was recovered a few days later, the NIM chip was missing. The next day, Hyder assesses the diamonds and the new kid, Gus, helps out. Gus begs to be part of the team and he has the tech skills that could prove useful. He grades the diamonds, but it wasn't enough to pay the hacker. The gang needs the hacker's services to get information on heists. Hyder decides that they need another bionic to be able to pull off another heist, and Gus happens to know someone who can. Gus and Hyder show up on the stadium where Maria is training. Gus is actually Maria's brother and he paints a rosy picture of Hyder where he has a facility that supports and trains athletes who lost their place due to the bionic revolution. Maria helps out a bit at the center and gets to know Hyder. But Hyder begins to plant the idea of Maria becoming a bionic through illegal means, and even giving her motivation that she can become number one again. The number one spot is currently taken by Gabby Santos, her younger sister. Maria has been kept in the sidelines ever since the bionic revolution took over the sport industry. Now it's not about a test of humanity's physical limits or even sportsmanship anymore, now it's about money and sponsorships. Ricardo, Maria and Gabby's father, has been raising his two daughters ever since the untimely death of his wife Helena Santos, Brazil's national sports icon. Helena has focused solely on Maria's training and barely gave Gabby and Gus any attention. Gabby has been handicapped since she was a child, and now it's her time to shine. With Bionic, the largest bionic prosthetic company, as her sponsor, the world is Gabby's oyster. But Maria's frustration has reached its limit and she let everyone know in Gabby's party what she thinks of Bionics. How Bionics are such sellouts and only do it for fame and money, and how it robbed true athletes of their noble purpose and glory. Gabby tries to reason with her, but Maria left her with a cryptic message that she'll adapt to this changing world. Maria leaves and heads home, but she gets into an accident on her way back and as a consequence, had her right leg amputated. She recovers after some time and Gabby helps her get used to her new life. The next step to Maria's recovery is the installation of the NIM chip. The NIM chip will be responsible for capturing signals from her motor cortex and transmits them into the prosthetic with absolute precision. The procedure was a success and Maria was able to wear her new prosthetic straight away. As an athlete at heart, she wastes no time in testing out her new hardware. Maria has grown accustomed to her new leg in such a short amount of time and was able to perform feats she never dreamed possible. The NIM, however, has one glaring weakness: it tends to overheat when overused, and once the capacity reaches zero, then you can fall into a coma. As it turns out, negative emotions such as anxiety and nervousness speed up the NIM's overheating. Hyder shows up at the training facility as a reminder of Maria's debt to him. She's up for their next heist and he motivates Maria by reminding her that she's doing it for the athletes at the facility doing it tough at the moment. Their target is a cash van and Gus controlled its path through a series of road blockages. All this leading to Maria waiting in ambush. With her bionic prowess, she busts through the van effortlessly. But one of the guards saw her face unfortunately and Hyder has to deal with it himself. Maria is furious at Hyder for killing the guard, but he can't leave any witnesses behind. But she's even more angry when she finds out that Gus was involved in the heist. While Hyder and the gang count their spoils, Maria demands Gus to quit, but he angrily rejects the offer. He tells her that Gabby and herself are always at the limelight and he's always lived in their shadow and never allowed to do anything. Meanwhile, the detectives at the crime scene are slowly starting to put two and two together. The coincidence is far too great, a former elite athlete in a suspicious accident, and then Hyder visiting Maria during her training. They reviewed Maria's accident footage and discover something important. They take this up with Ricardo and Gabby and they explain that on the night of Maria's accident, an emergency call to the hospital was made before the accident even occurs. The caller has even given the right address for the pending accident. The van used was stolen with its registered owner already deceased. Of course, Ricardo was mad at the implication that Maria might have faked the accident to become bionic and sends the detectives away. This has created a situation of distrust among the Santos family, particularly with Gabby. She has a copy of the accident footage and rewinds it over and over again and notices something, which we'll get to later. And to further complicate things, Maria is invited to the Bionic competition and also received sponsorship from Biona, which is Gabby's official sponsor as well. This created a heated tension between the two of them. Meanwhile, Gus is freaking out because the detective also spoke to him and hinted of Maria's possible involvement with Hyder. Finally, the day of the Bionic high jump competition has arrived. Gabby went first and starts strong, breaking her own personal world record. However, when it is Maria's turn, she smashed Gabby's record to set a new world record of her own. A competitor has to quit since his NIM chip is close to overheating, so it's down to Maria versus Gabby. And this goes on for another round where either sister is breaking each other's world records. But the stress and anxiety is starting to get to Gabby, so her NIM chip is getting dangerously close to 0%. Dario and her father try to convince Gabby not to jump anymore, but she's too hard-headed. There is no way she's going to let her sister, Maria, to take away her glory. Gabby valiantly runs to make the jump, but she loses consciousness in midair. She was taken to the hospital where she's in a steady condition, but her NIM is fried. Outside, Maria blames her father for always setting up a rivalry between her and Gabby. Gabby eventually wakes up, but she immediately confronts Maria about the truth of her accident. She knew that Maria faked the accident since she can hear Maria's training music in the background. And the flashback indeed shows Hyder making the call to emergency first, before crashing into Maria. Maria confesses that the song was in order to coordinate the accident. She promises Gabby that she'll cut ties with Hyder, but Gabby tells her that this won't end peacefully. And this is what she tells Hyder that night, but he didn't take the news well. But Maria is stronger now since she's a bionic, so Hyder had to let her go. She tries to live normally in the next few days, but Hyder isn't the kind of man you cross. Hyder raids Maria's home and she's powerless to do anything since Gus has spiked her drink earlier, thinking that Hyder will only take Maria. But thugs beat Ricardo and kidnaps Gabby, with Gus unable to do anything. Maria's last heist involves a batch of new and advanced NIM chips, whose delivery schedule was provided by the hackers paid for from the money earlier. Since they can't directly raid the main building, Maria has to jump from the next building and reach the package before it reaches the helipad at the top floor. Maria is terrified by the jump, of course, but Hyder promised to release her sister if she's successful. So she runs up and makes the jump of her life. She infiltrated the building successfully and managed to take the briefcase by force. She quickly makes her way to the parking level where a car is waiting for her. Maria doesn't even bother to disguise herself anymore at this point. She drives to the meetup point and gets intercepted by Hyder. She takes this opportunity to hit him with her car. But to her horror, it was Gus instead of Hyder. Gus tells her that Hyder made him do it. Then Hyder himself shows up and drags Maria back to their warehouse. The deal is already underway when Maria regains consciousness. Hyder is planning to sell the NIM chips to a third party instead of giving it to the athletes as he originally promised. The buyer plans to create a bionic army to do his bidding. Hyder, in his conceit, calls over Maria to gloat and show her what she stole. But that was a huge mistake, and Maria wastes no time in beating up Hyder and his men. The police are on their way and Gabby begs Maria to escape while she can. Maria runs away but gets cornered and has no choice but to go over the fence. But she gets tangled by the barbed wires and is forced to disconnect from her bionic prosthetic. Meanwhile, Gabby decides to help her sister by taking one of the cars and driving all the way to pick her sister up. Together they escape police. Gus actually survived, but as a result has become a multiple amputee. 6 months later and both Maria and Gabby has disappeared from society. But they have been actually fostering orphans in a secret location. Yet Dario kept in touch and even brought them brand new hardware. Maria's plan moving forward is to make a deal and offer their services to none other than Hyder's client. She proposes that they become the bionic army that he's been looking for, but he seems unimpressed. So Maria calls out Gus, who's been fully rebuilt, and he showcases his combat ability that is so amazing that their client signs them up. All three go home united in their new lives. And that wraps up today's story. Whenever there's a futuristic sci-fi film, why is it always dystopian and pessimistic? Let me know in the comments section below what you think, and thank you for reaching this far. Please leave us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.